which is really good. Because then the other player that maybe might be as good as the game feels like they still have a chance to win if they wait till just the right moment to use the comeback card, which is really good. And I really suggest adding some comeback cards to your game, but you need to make sure that your comeback cards aren't type specific. I mean, you can make type specific comeback cards, but I just wouldn't. I would try and make them be usable by any type of card if you have like an elemental like game that has elements in it. But like it doesn't matter as much. But like I would still try to do that so that any comeback card can be used, put in any deck, basically. But yeah, that's just really good. That's another way that you can. That's another requirement for effects to keep the effects balanced. Then next up is damage reduction balancing. Now, damage reduction is really good to have in your game, but you need to make sure that you balance it right. If your damage reduction is too much, like to the point where everybody's doing 0 damage and slowing down the game, that is bad. Damage reduction should be like a thing that happens sometimes in your game, not all the time, right? Especially damage reduction that lowers it down to 0, anything like that. So, for the first example of damage reduction that I'm going to be showing you, it's Shaba, the card that I was just talking about during the last segment. He has a passive skill called Kind Bubble. All allies take 10 less damage. That's a type of damage reduction. It just makes everybody take 10 less damage. But see how the card said allies? That means not including Shaba, because Shaba can't be an ally of himself. That means all your other cards that you play. Since Shaba still is balanced, because yes, all your cards except for him take 10 less damage, but if you were taking 10 less damage, he's already taking 30 less damage when you put him in defense position, right? So if he had his own effect, then you'd be taking 40 less damage, which would be way much, because that would be enough to stop to completely stop the damage from a rank 1, which is bad, because a rank 0 should not be able to just stop a rank 1 in its tracks. You know what I'm saying? That should not happen. That just should not happen. Next up is a Shadow Blocker. So Shadow Blocker is an example that is a card that actually had a nerf, because it was actually just reducing too much damage. And you'll see why when you read his trigger skill, blocking trick. Once per turn, when this card is attacked, reflected, but it does half damage rounded down. What that means is that, well, since my game is like 10s only, that means there's not like 5s in there's no 5s basically. Like, let's say one and a half of 70, that would be 35, but if you round it down, that wouldn't be 35, it would just be 30. Just to make sure that the game, doesn't go into numbers that are hard for people like to subtract and add, because I don't want games to be sitting here like, whoa, my card is at maybe 44 HP, or maybe it was 43, or maybe 41, I forget. You don't want that, so I made sure that they're easy numbers just to subtract and add, It's just really good for people, especially like younger people, to play, so then they don't get confused, especially like younger kids also, because I kind of want my game to be kid-friendly. Anyway, to get back to it, half damage. Before, his effect would just be, it does all damage back to them. Reflect all. Oh, if you don't know what reflect means, it basically just means change the attack target, which would still be damage reduction, because it'll be stopping a card from taking damage, but make another card take damage. So that means you could have a card with 100 attack, and he would not be able to stop this dude. And basically that card would have to take his 100 attack back in the face, which is not good, and it would just make it just frustrates the other player, I see, whenever that happens. It makes them really mad, because when they should be winning, when the card should have died, they can't kill it. But now, it's doing less damage, it's not doing as much damage, meaning that it can't solo your team by itself, by just using its effect. And also, it's once per turn now, so that means you can activate it once, but then now for the rest of that turn, you can't use it again to block, or I guess really reflect the attack, which is good. So that means eventually you'll be able to kill it just by sheer numbers after you just have a bunch of cards on field. Or if you have any boosting effects that affect all your cards, you'll probably be able to kill him, which is a lot of arena cards. So arena cards can counter him also, and also cards like Windy that just, clump up and make a lot, make a lot of cards can also help you also. So yeah. The next up are cards that just stop the attack outright. Where the attack is just done. It doesn't even reduce it. It just is this attack just stops. Basically, this is Block, the basic counter card of my game. Counter cards are cards that you can activate during your opponent's turn. Stop an attack if the attacker has more stamina, which basically means that if you have more stamina than the attacker, you can't use the effect. So it requires something specific from you, so that you can use it. So that means you can't always just block whenever you want to. Sometimes there's cases where you can't block, and you might have to, and then that means you have to think ahead before your cards are low, and think, oh, I should probably attack to get my stamina lower than his cards, then I can actually block his card's attacks next turn. So far, something like that, basically. So then you can't always damage reduction, and then also that means that your opponent can plan for if they predict that you might have the card. Maybe you're like, oh shoot, he might have block, but I think I'm safe because my card has more stamina than all his cards. See where I'm going with this? So damage reduction you can put that on. Damage reduction isn't completely broken, but you need to make sure that you can't always do it, and that there are like ways to expect it. So then like a point where like somebody could have just enough to kill a card, but then you stop it, it's not good. Then you stop it, it's good, but you don't want is this that your opponent's just throwing out a bunch of stopping cards and just stopping. Half of their deck is just like counter cards that just stop attacks. You don't want that. That's bad. You don't want it, and also just don't add as many stopping cards or damage reduction cards in the game, so that players don't feel like they should be, or don't feel like they should be added it, but make it hard for players just to make a whole deck surrounded by it, basically. Having stall type decks in the game is okay, but having it to the point where every deck is running a bunch of damage reduction cards is bad, because that means the game is going to turn slow. So stalling can be in your game, just can't make stalling too good. This is an extreme amount of this is an extreme version of stopping effects, or no, stopping damage reduction. This is an extreme version of it, and there should be very few cards that act like this. But this is like, instead of being a comeback card, this is like a survival card, basically. Shield of Hope. If your enemy has more shield cards, stop an attack, and your enemy can't attack for the rest of your turn. So it gives you one last turn for you to turn things around. If not, you lose. So yes, your opponent has to be winning for you to use it, but it still just stops your enemy from attacking you outright. Just no more attacking for the rest of this game. It's basically just a skip card, basically, like from Luna, where you just skip Bro's turn because they can't attack for the rest of that turn. That's basically just not having a turn anyway. So yeah, it's pretty bad. The only way you get through this is if you use damaging effects. Other than that, attacks just can't happen. And then also, you can make stop effects really good if, if like you do something really specific. Like for this, stop an attack that would hit a thunder type, then draw one card. So it specifically has to be a thunder type, and then you get to draw one card also, and you get to stop the attack also. So yeah, that's like it's a win-win. But you can only run it with thunder. You can't run it with anything else, or you can't use it. So yeah, that's another way that you can make damage reduction cards. Here's another one, Do or Die. Now, Do or Die is actually one of the reduction cards in my game that might be, let me say, slightly powerful. Now, it's not nothing crazy where like every deck is running it, but it's a tiny bit powerful, and not a good example of like how you should make damage reduction effects. Stop an attack, then attack with one of your fighters, and it costs 0 stamina. So this is a very bad example of damage reduction because it lets you reduce damage, and it gives you a bonus also, which is not good. What I should have done is said that you get to stop an attack, then attack with one of your fighters, and it costs 2 stamina. It costs 2 stamina. So then that means you get to stop an attack, but then you have to attack with one of your cards, but it costs 2. That was a really good way. That would be a really good way of nerfing this card to make it actually, not broken. Now, I shouldn't use the word broken so lightly because it's not like a broken card, but it is just a little bit more powerful than what it actually should be. Next up is Earthen Guard. Now, Earthen Guard is a very interesting card and has a very interesting way of damage reduction. He has 60 HP, 2 stamina, 20 attack, and 20 defense. He has a passive skill called Armor. This card's defense is on while being in attack position. Now, this effect is very dangerous, and should not be given to every card. So this basically allows you to have damage reduction while you're attacking. This is very dangerous and could turn your game into a very slow paced game. So yeah, you should not, and also it's on forever. You should not have damage reduction effects that last for a long time, and if you do, then that means or last for more than one turn. If you do, that means that you have to like make it pretty weak, or give the effect to a weak card like Earthen Guard. Earthen Guard isn't a bad card, but he isn't like a good card either. He's a nice card that can do some nice damage and also not take that much damage also, which is really nice. But if this effect was like on something like, I don't know, Turbo Dash, the rank 1 that I was just showing you, if it was on Turbo Dash, that'd be very bad. Because Turbo Dash would be doing a lot of damage and be taking a lot not damage, if that makes sense. A lot not damage. Sorry guys. Be taking 40 less damage, which is a lot. So it makes it even harder for rank 0s to beat them. Usually rank 0s can beat a rank 1 if they team up together, if you can win by numbers. But now, that's just not possible anymore. If you want to beat them, you have to go into a rank 1 also, which is not good. And it can be even more power creep if you put it on a rank 2 also. So yeah, you need to make sure that any long-term damage reduction effects have to be either very weak damage reduction or be on a very weak card anyway. Then, this is the damage reduction. This is not even damage reduction, this is a floodgate. Floodgates are very dangerous and could make your game more frustrating than ever and could ruin your game. This is Baby Shabba. This card can only be attacked by fighters with 30 or less attack. So this floodgate is a good floodgate because it encourages the enemy to use weaker cards and not stronger cards. But also at the same time, you could just lock your opponent out of attacking you for a while until they get a new card, because you could just play Baby Shabba, and if your opponent and you just waited till your opponent got ranked up their cards and just have more than 30 attack, they can't attack you until they get another card that just does 10. But it's still balanced because Baby Shabba only has 40 HP. You might be saying, wait, can't you use the other card Bouncing Shabba? Was this Shabba? Well, no. Baby Shabba is technically not Shabba because Bouncing Shabba stated specifically Shabba, not a Shabba card. So not Baby Shabba. By the way, for the people that might want to bring that up and might say, oh, that's a really broken combo. But no, you can only use it with regular Shabba, not Baby Shabba. Because it doesn't say Shabba card, it says specifically Shabba. But yeah, this is a good type of floodgate because it encourages your opponent to use weaker cards and not use stronger cards. And also, it's very easy to come out of this floodgate. basically after a while, after you draw one of your other cards that are probably not going to have more than 30 attack, basically, which is really easy. It's really easy not to have cards that have 30 attack, and also you get free Baby Shabbat if you just use effect damage to get past them also. So, yeah. Also, yeah, that's another reason why this floodgate is really good, because you can get past it. You can get past it anyway. You could just use damaging effects. You should never have a floodgate where, like, there's no way to get past it. That's very bad. That's a fun fact. That's the only floodgate in my entire game. Alright, now on to point number 4. Healing balancing. So healing can be a very delicate part of the game. For example, in my game, I have very few healing cards, and it actually took me a while to find healing cards as examples for this point, because I don't really add a lot of healing in my game, usually. Because then it just makes the game longer. I like when when you have to really think about, oh, do I want to put this card in attack mode or defense mode? Or do I want to, like, keep him alive? Or do I want to get rid of my opponent's cards, right? Because it makes the decision a lot more harder, because now you can't just say, oh, okay, well, I'll wait till I get my healing card and heal it. Most decks don't have that much access to healing, so that's usually not an option, usually. It's usually either you take a certain amount of damage and you die, or you don't. It's just either one or the other. But now let's get into the actual point. Healing. Zola has a skill, a once per turn skill, called Happy Packer, heal 20 damage. So, healing 20 damage is really nice. Let's use 20 damage out every one of your turns. It's really nice. That's pretty nice, yeah. But as you can see, it's only 20 damage. When you have passive healing effects like this, where it's just you get to heal again and again and again, multiple healing effects like this, where you just get to heal every time during your turn, they have to be weak. They have to be either equal to the base attack of your game or less. I did the base attack for my game, 20, because healing 10 would kind of be sad. So I wanted to still have impact without having too much impact. Next up is Lemon Cupcake, which has basically the same effect. His first effect has nothing to do with healing, so we're going to go over him. But just another example of healing also. Then we have Birdie Nest, which is a special card that has HP, meaning that it stays on the field. It stays on the field, but it just can't attack. So it's like a creature that just doesn't have attack. It only has HP. And also, you get to play it for free per turn. It doesn't count as your play per turn. Also, anyway, get to the effect. Once on your turn, heal 20 damage off all Birdie cards. Now, yes, you get to heal 20 damage off all Birdie cards. That sounds really broken. But Birdie is a very small archetype. There's not that many Birdie cards, and also it's just an archetype anyway. So you're not going to be having access to a lot of cards anyway. So it's not going to be broken. So yeah, another way to have healing is archetype or elemental type specific healing. Basically, you need a certain type to be able to heal, which is what I brought up during the special segment. Effect segment. Now, this type of healing is very dangerous. This is called raw healing. What I mean by raw healing, well, you just see. So, this is Easty the Bunny. When an egg card is fused, this card gets plus 20 HP. See how it said plus 20 HP and not heal 20 damage? There's a very, very big difference. Healing means refill, basically. So that means you can't heal a card that's already at full HP. So let's say a card's at 60 HP, that's their max HP. You can't heal them because they're at full. But a raw heal just means that you just get HP points, right? It doesn't matter if you're at full or not. So that means it just makes a card more bulkier. So now if you have 60 HP, you just get plus 20 HP, so now you have 80 HP. This is very dangerous. You have to be very careful with raw healing. For this example, Easty Bunny is not that dangerous because there's very few egg cards in the game. There's only 2 egg cards in the game now that I think about it, and you can only play 3 copies of cards in the game, so you're only going to be able to really play 6 egg cards in your deck, which sounds like not a lot, but it's decent. So it's still a strategy, but it's not as good as it sounds. And also, EC doesn't do a lot of damage, really. And yeah, EC is just not that good. And also, he has one less HP than the base HP anyway. So you're already starting a little bit lower than what you would have had if you were a normal card anyway. So, balanced. This card, if I didn't put specific requirements on it, could be dangerous. This card is Shabukare. Shabukare. Why did I put a heart at the end? No, never mind. Anyway, give a Shabuk card plus 60 HP. Next turn, your enemy can't attack a Shabuk card.